We're seeing a lot of things in our country this week. We're seeing racial injustice. We're seeing racism. We're seeing protests, riots, violence, social media posts. Nothing new. Things that we've seen for hundreds of years. You might even have opinion about what you've seen, about what you've heard. But I believe, as well as many others believe, what needs to happen is change. Real change. Heart change. Mindset change. But how do we start change? Well, it starts with you and I sitting down and having a conversation. A conversation where I learn from your experience and you learn from my experience. And when we learn from each other's experience, when we learn why a person thinks the way that they think, we can come together and we can have understanding. And I believe that dialogue is the start to reconciliation. So today, I want to have that dialogue, a conversation with one of your peers who has a story, an experience that might look different from yours, maybe similar, but I pray that you will learn something today that will move your heart and inspire you to change. All right, well, I am sitting here with Daryl Igiola, one of our awesome students, known Daryl for a long time. And what I've asked Daryl to do is just sit down with me and just like what we were talking about, start the dialogue, start a conversation. Daryl has an experience, a story that he's going to share a little bit about, but I just want to kind of kick it over to you, Daryl, and just really, with everything we're seeing right now in our country, with the injustice, the discrimination, the inequality, whatever people want to call it, you know, what's your experience like right now? What are some of the feelings that you're feeling with everything going on?
Yeah, definitely. I know sometimes I see the videos, I see the posts, I see the pictures, and there'll be instances where I'm moved to tears, right? I'm hurt. I'm like, why is this still happening, or why is it this severe after generations after generations have fought for it? And there'll be other instances where I see the videos, I see the posts, and I don't feel the emotions that I feel like I need to feel in order for change to occur. I feel like I've become insensitive to what I've seen.
Wow.
And then it'll take me talking to my parents about it in later days or later that day, and they ask me, what's your opinion on this? What do you think about this? And I'll be like, I saw this before, and I didn't feel what I know my heart wants to feel, or I didn't feel what I know I have to feel in order for change to happen, or for my people to not stay the way they're getting treated right now, for it to just not stay the same way. So I just think the impact and the awareness that is spread as a result of social media is I just love it so much. It's so vast that I think this kind of, like I heard someone say before, this round of kind of awareness for racism and for racial inequality is just so prominent right now that I feel like change can happen, and I'm hopeful that change can happen. Yeah. But what we're seeing right now, I'm definitely not happy with it, and I don't think you can be happy with it. If you are, I don't know what to say, but we all have our different opinions, but I just think we need to get to a point to where we can say we did something different, we made a difference.
Wow.
And, the future generation is not going to feel the same way we do in this instance right now. We don't have to tell our kids, man, this is what I went through, you're going to have to go through the same exact thing. You know what I'm saying? We can just make a difference in other people's lives.
That is so amazing. I think that's powerful. I agree with you. I think that we can make change, and that we have to hold on to the hope that, you know, it's not through our willpower, but I know we've kind of talked about this, but it's God being on our side, and in the middle of this situation, that's the hope that we have to hold on to. So I love what you're saying. I want to ask you some other questions. You know, take what's happened over the last week and even the last couple weeks with some of the incidences with George Floyd and Ahmaud Arbery. But tell me, outside of those situations, what is racism? What does that look like in your world every day?
Yeah, I mean, there's different types of racism. There's like systematic racism, and there's just full-on racism, as in I see you as a different color and I'll treat you differently, much differently. Yeah. I know in the past I've been blessed to not have to deal with extreme racism, as in like where it changes my life for the worse so much as to where I'm in the hospital or something. I'm blessed to not have to have to not have to not having to deal with that in the past, right?
Right.
But I know just little things like in school being treated differently by teachers or being accused of something I didn't do as a result of the color of my skin. And when I was younger, I was pretty dramatic. I was pretty dramatic. So something like that could happen, and if I would say anything about it, people would be like, "Oh, it's just Daryl." You know what I'm saying? He's just the way he is. To where once a teacher, she thought I was pointing guns at a friend, and then she went to the principal talking about, "Oh, this kid did this," and then when I heard of it, because she didn't even tell me in the classroom, I heard of it from my parents. And they said they were in trouble. I was like, "Mom, Dad, I didn't do that. Like I promise you, I didn't do that." So they themselves went to the principal, told them my son said he didn't do it. So I believe that he did not do it, and they had a whole conversation with the teacher and everything, cleared up my name and that I didn't do it. And it's just little things like that. It's just stereotypes as well, and in the education system, I feel like if you don't know something about your culture or your history, you're kind of looked down upon. As in since you're a part of this, or your skin is the same as people in history, you should know everything. Otherwise, it's kind of a shame. And I know, I would like to know everything. I just don't think I mentally can. But yeah, just little things like that. I know there's so much more extreme types of racism, and I feel like since a lot more African Americans, their economic place in the world is a lower than a lot more people in society, that just affects kind of either crime rates or anything, because if you're poor, there's probably a higher chance that you're going to steal or something as a result of trying to survive, right? And as a result of more African Americans being in that general economic place, it's not the stereotype is, oh, black people steal, but it's just it's not that simple, right? You have to take into the fact that more people are poor that are African Americans, so then they might have. I'm not saying it's right. I'm not saying stealing is right, and that and that they're not to be at fault. But I'm just saying the proportions of African Americans being poor and then leading to stealing is more than let's just say white Americans. Yeah.
Wow. So from what it sounds like, this isn't just something that was brought up over the last couple of weeks that now you're like, oh, I guess this is all the reality of what I feel. But I've dealt with this my whole life, and I've experienced it at school with teachers, with people, classmates, with outside of that. And I think for me, someone who, as you guys can tell, Daryl and I have different skin color, and we come from different backgrounds. But for someone like me, I think I need to hear more stories like that and more examples of things that you go through, and whether it's you or whoever else. I think that shared experience helps me have understanding, and that understanding is ultimately going to help me grow. So I think this is so helpful and healthy, and really, I think it's really what God wants. God doesn't want us to be isolated from each other, but he wants us to be unified and connected and talking to each other, right?
Just our differences make us stronger together. And I know we're not going to know everything about each other just off the top of our heads by just random chance, right? So if we use this conversation and just talk to each other, it'll open up the opportunity to just grow more and grow stronger together.
Yeah. So, all right, so Daryl, I want to ask, being who you are, looking like how you look like, in this country, what are you afraid of?
Yeah, I'm gonna be real. Sometimes, I love that I'm African American. I love that I'm black, but sometimes it can cause fear. As in, just today, I was in a drive-through and there was a police car in front of us, and for some reason, just fear and being anxiousness just washed over me. And I was for some reason, he didn't do anything at all. He was in his car, he was chilling. I couldn't even see him, and I just felt, what if something happens to me, or what if he gets out of the car, sees me, and all of a sudden arrests me for no reason, or I fear that one day I get a call saying my parents aren't coming home, or I get a call saying my dad's in jail, and I know my dad wouldn't do anything that would cause me to get in jail. Or even I saw this little girl was shot. She was 11, and I was like, what if my sister goes out she's by herself with some friends, and all of a sudden she can't come home. She can't um, she can't have her heart beating again or something. It's just I know a lot of that is just an effect of social media, but
Yeah.
it's just little things of not little things, but the causes of other people, or not the causes, the experiences of other people.
Yeah.
If that happens to me, like what's gonna happen? Like, and I'm just afraid of bad consequences or bad experiences that could happen in the future just because of the way I look.
Wow.
And I know, like I can't be out too late because it's just the probability of something happening to me would just be even more than if I'm just out in the broad daylight. So if I'm out with coming back from, I don't know, a party or something, and it's like midnight, that probability of something happening to me is just so much more than if it's 12 p.m. in the afternoon
Wow.
or something. So
Wow.
just afraid of what could happen, I guess. But I know that with God and with Him protecting me and with me just trusting in Him, I don't have to fear anything. And even if something does happen to me,
love that.
I can trust that God, my life is in His hands, and it's not anything that He wants to do. I can trust Him with, and as long as I don't go out of my way to go against what He wants to do, I'll be alright.
Wow. I think that's so powerful that you put God right in the middle of your circumstance, your situation. Because, I mean, I'll be honest, I will never understand what you go through. And I won't ever probably experience that. It's just my reality. But what I can do is hear that story and let it change my heart and see you differently. And I know for me, I'm encouraged by what you just said, because it's knowing that you have God changes the way that you think of, that you let the emotion of fear, when it hits you, it changes the way you let it affect you. And I love that, because I've been thinking about all the people who are out there, who are fearful and who don't have God, what they must be feeling, what they must be going through, of thinking there's no hope, there's nothing I have to look forward to. But you and I know that when we have God, we can hold on to Him.
And I feel like that causes people to act maybe irrationally.
Yeah.
So
That's good perspective.
they might go out and say, you know what, just to relieve my stress, let's go to Target and just loot it or something, or
Wow.
just little things like that can just spiral into something more.
Yeah.
More that
Absolutely.
can cause a movement like the Black Rights Movement or the Black Lives Movement to just kind of do worse than what it was made to do.
Yeah.
And yeah, so I mean, I pray that God can reach people even if they're not looking for Him.
Yeah.
But I guess us as a family and us as a church family, we have to reach out to people too to see what we can do, and
Absolutely.
to just catch people left, right, and center to make sure they're okay.
Man, that's so good. I want to ask you this. So how do you want people to see you? Because there's preconceived notions that people have, use their filter, whether it might have been how they grew up, how they were taught. But what we're doing today, we're opening up a dialogue, we're opening up a conversation. You're sharing your experience. And I really do think that's the start to reconciliation. So for someone who's watching this that may have never seen you in this way before, or even thought about what your experience could mean to their life, how do you want people to see you?
I mean, I really want people to see me, just as just a black boy, right? I know people push past and say there's no, like, I'm colorblind, like I don't see color, and I just really, if we're colorblind per se, we can't see the differences between us. So by saying I'm colorblind and saying you all look the same, I really don't see the difference between me and you. And like, for example, I'll take food. Like, if you don't see the difference between Chinese food and a burger, like, there's a problem. You can't be doing that. Yeah. So just like, our differences bring us together and make us stronger.
I love that. Yes.
But I just can't let our differences pull us apart and let us be scared of each other, be scared of conversation like this, or be scared of anything from speaking out to just being friends or something like that.
Yeah.
So,
That's so good, man. So with your peers who are watching this right now, your generation, Um, what can they do right now to start making change, to start seeing things differently in a new filter, a new lens? What can they do um, to start really making real change, like what we're talking about today?
Yeah, one step, the biggest step forward to it, just have a conversation. Have a conversation with someone you know that may look differently, think differently, act differently than you do. And even if you may not agree with everything that they have to say or everything they have to do, it won't hurt to just engage in a conversation, say, hey, what do you think about this? And instead of being like, no, I don't think that's right, say, okay, I see your point. Tell me more about it so I can understand you, understand what you're saying, and I'll tell you my point of view so we can understand each other and kind of get the best of what we both know, right?
Yeah.
And so just making a change is just being having knowledge of what we both experience, what we both know, and doing something about it. I know there's so many petitions that we can do. There's so many ways we can support creators or support just anything from YouTube to, like I said, petitions and stuff like that. So making a difference, all you need to do is look for how to make a difference. There's always something out there. There's always someone that'll give you direction. So yeah, I just really think having a conversation and
That's great.
understanding each other and not first looking at predispositions or stereotypes, but looking at the person, asking them, hey, like how are you? Like, how are you doing? Or what type of person are you in this field or something? And I'll just engaging in that conversation will let you judge who the person, not like a bad judge, but judge like who the person is, like how they are, and just how they can greatly affect your life, so that it'll be for the better and not for something for the worse.
Wow, that's amazing. That's really amazing. Well, hey, listen, I hope y'all really got something out of today. Daryl, can I please ask you to pray for us as Student Movement? Just pray for our heart, pray for our nation right now with what's going on, and just pray that God will use this as an opportunity to work in us so that we can really make some real change happen.
Okay. God, I pray that you will be with us today. God, I pray that you'll be with us in these next couple weeks, in these next couple months. God, I pray that you will tune our hearts to the voice of you and to the voice of just your love. And I pray that, God, your love will spread across us so that we may express it in so many different ways. Yes. People that we know, people that we don't even know, strangers that may look differently than us. God, I pray that who you are, you just put that in our hearts and in our minds, and that our mouths only speak goodness of you and the kindness of your heart. God, I pray that in our country will not just speak words of just bringing people down, God, that it'll just be of wisdom that you have given us and that you've educated us with. God, I pray that we'll not be quick to anger, we'll be quick to listen, God. So I pray that we'll listen to the people that are around us, God, and I pray that you'll just give us the insight to what we have to do, to what we have to say, and the way we have to act to make a change for the better, God. I know that we have our different opinions, but you gave us those opinions, God. You gave us our different hearts, different minds, so that we may express ourselves in different ways, and that we're not all just the same people acting in the same way, the same aspects. God, change can happen, God. You gave us different love languages, God, different skin tones, different everything, so that we may be brought together by our differences, God. So I pray that in our nation and in our country and in just our states, our cities, God, in our homes, that you will help us be a light amidst any darkness that is around us, God. So I pray for just the student movement. I pray for youth. I pray for this next generation, that we will be moved by you, God, that we will just listen to you, and that this movement will just be of you, God. I pray that the demons and devil that try to make people act a certain way, God, that you will just tune our hearts and change our hearts for the better, so that we may be able to know, oh, this is God, this is my God, this is what my God has said, and I will follow it, and I rebuke any demon that goes against it. So I pray that, God, that you'll just tune our hearts and help us love like you, God, and just make these next couple of weeks, months of you, God, and that will just only get better from here. In Jesus' name.
Amen. Well, Daryl, I appreciate you. Thank you so much for doing this with me. This is the first of many conversations I think we're going to have as Student Movement. So I got more to say on this topic in just a second, but Daryl, thanks for coming and doing this with me. I love you, bro.
Love you too.
Well, I really hope you got something out of that interview today with Daryl. And my hope right now is that you would have an open heart to hear God from this different perspective. And that perspective is, as we see racial injustice, inequality, racism, how do we reconcile these issues? Because all of us have different races, different backgrounds, different color. How do we reconcile all of these issues together as different people? And I believe God has something he wants to speak to you about today, as well as me and anyone else who might be watching this. And here it is. Here's how we reconcile these issues. Here's how we start to make change, is a better way of saying that. Number one is this. Write this down. Have the conversations. Have the conversation. See, before we can stand with people, before we can understand who someone is, we got to sit down with them. We got to sit down. We got to have the conversations. That's what Jesus shows us. He shows us this with the man named Zacchaeus, who was not liked, who was hated among the people in his town. But Jesus said, I have to have dinner in your house. And Jesus sat down with him and talked with him. And what happened is Zacchaeus' heart was changed. And he made some real life change based on the conversation he had with Jesus. So it has to start in conversations. It has to start in conversation. See, we're not always going to get it right. It might look messy. It might get uncomfortable, but at least you're talking. So I encourage you, ask. I encourage you to talk. I encourage you to just learn. And I promise you, when we start having those conversations, we're going to be able to hear people. We're going to be able to understand people. We're going to be able to start making real change. All right, the second thing is this. The second thing we got to do is we got to see the person. We got to see the person. This is one of our towel cards here at LifeLink. But we got to see the person. See, Jesus saw the people, and he had compassion for them. And in fact, that compassion that he had for them caused him to act and do miracles on their behalf. And Jesus's miracles were all inclusive. Didn't matter the age, didn't matter the background, didn't matter the position, didn't matter where they were from. Jesus's miracles were all inclusive. And Jesus shows us this picture that we have to see people first. You know, oftentimes what we'll do is we'll see the image of a person before we see their substance. And that's a problem. We can't judge people based on how they look or how we think they're going to act or treat us. No, that cannot be the filter of how we see people. We have to see people like Jesus, and that they're people, that they're human beings, created in the image of God. And because of that, we should have compassion for them when they need help, when they're being oppressed, when they feel like they have no hope. We should be the people who see them, have compassion, and help them find that hope. In fact, I want you to listen to this Bible verse in Galatians 6:2-3. It says this in the Message version. It says, "Stoop down and reach out to those who are oppressed. Share their burdens Share their burdens and so complete Christ's law. If you think you are too good for that, you are badly deceived." We got to see people. We have to see them. Part of seeing them is listening to them, listening to their pain, listening to their hurt, listening to their experience, and then being moved with compassion to act upon that. That's what's going to start to make change. Got to have the conversations. We got to see people. The third thing is this. It's be the light of the world. Be the light of the world. Jesus actually tells us this in John 8:12. Jesus says that he is the light of the world, and if we follow him, we will not walk in darkness, because we will have the light that leads to life. See, Jesus has given us a light to show us where we are, to help lead us forward. And he's given us a light to expose darkness. There's darkness in this country right now, everywhere. We're seeing it right now flare up in the racial injustice, in the lack of inequality, and whatever you want to call it. But we're seeing the darkness, and it's real. And Jesus has given each and every one of us a light to expose that darkness. But it's not just enough to expose the darkness. We got to change what we see. We got to change what's being exposed. See, we can expose the darkness all we want, but if that's all we do is expose and say, look at that, that's bad over there, that's not going to change anything. That's why we got to have the conversations. We got to see people, and we got to use the light that God has given us, and be bold and expose the darkness that we see. That's how we're going to keep making real change happen. Number 4 is this. Write this down. Be a bridge builder. See, God has created people of all races, all colors, all cultures, all backgrounds in his image. And as Christ followers, we are to live our lives based on where Jesus is leading us. Because he is our good shepherd, as he calls us, and we are his sheep. We are his followers. Listen to what Jesus said. He prayed this prayer to God about how we would live with one another. He says this, he says, I am praying not only for these disciples, this is in John 17:20-21. He says, I'm praying not only for these disciples, but also for all who will ever believe in me through their message. I pray that they will all be one, just as you and I are one. As you are in me, Father, and I am in you. And may they be in us, so that the world will believe that you sent me. See, Jesus shows us how to build bridges. It's through conversations. It's through inclusion. It's through seeing people. It's through having compassion and empathy for people's pain. It's through exposing darkness and being a light to people. And the heartbeat behind all of it, like Jesus prayed, would be unity. The heartbeat behind it all is unity. See, Jesus prayed that we would be unified. We would have, we have differences. We're a different color. We're a different race. We have a different culture, a different background. But we're all, through Jesus our Savior, we're all one and we're unified. So how are we going to start making real change? It starts with having conversation. It starts with seeing people. It starts by us being the light of the world. It starts by becoming a bridge builder, being unified, because what Jesus did on the cross, his prayer for us, that we, through what he did, his sacrifice, that we could be one. All the different cultures, all the different backgrounds, the different races could be one and live as one through him. I love you, student movement. Let's start making change in our world.